Hey everybody, Doug Walker here. I just saw Aquaman. Sorry it took a little bit to get to this. Came out on Christmas. Like 3 big movies came out on Christmas, and maybe because of my job, I don't usually see movies around Christmas time, because I see them all the time, so I want Christmas just be my friends and family. But a lot of people go see movies on Christmas. They like sharing that experience, cool. I usually don't have time. So 3 big movies came out. One was Mary Poppins, which came out before this because I really wanted to see Aquaman first, but that came out first, like a day before. So now I've seen this one, and now I'm going to try and see Bumblebee, believe it or not. Not because I have much interest in the Transformer movies anymore, but I have a friend in it, John Bailey, the honest trailer guy, epic voice guy. He's in it. He's technically 2 of the Transformers. I like supporting my friends, so you go see it if I haven't seen it yet, so I'm going to try and get to that too. Blah, blah, blah. Talking about Aquaman. It's getting really good reviews. A lot of people are liking it, and shit, if you were to tell me, like, out of the DC universe that the 2 superheroes that wouldn't get very good movies were Batman and Superman, and the ones who would get the best movies are Wonder Woman and Aquaman, I'd be like, what universe am I living in? This was a lot of fun. I had a blast with this movie. It's not perfect, but I mean, like, this is like the closest to like a big, epic DC movie. Like, I feel like they just went to James Wan and they're like, okay, yeah, you're a big hit director and everything. I mean, we don't want this to be a horror film or anything. I know you probably want to branch out, so just give us a good superhero movie. I mean, it's Aquaman. I know that's tough. It's the guy that talks to fish and everything, but, just do something with it. We got Drago. That'll help. He's pretty cool. So, just do something with it. And he's like, yeah, cool. I want to make Lord of the Rings. So that's what he did. He did this big Lord of the Rings epic. And he's not bad at it. It's actually hugely entertaining, and it feels big. It looks big. We saw this on IMAX just because we couldn't find a time for the standard screen. I was just like, well, I don't need to see Aquaman on IMAX. I don't need that. I am so glad I did. This looked amazing. This was just like one of the best looking films I've seen all year, and it's a good year of like good looking films. So I mean, the story is very, I don't want to say basic, but like you've kind of heard it before. It's the long lost, the person who was born who shouldn't have been born has a connection to like greatness. In this case, it's like a royal family, and he doesn't think he's anything. He's in between worlds, but now something bad is going to happen that's going to affect the world he came from and the world he's in, and that's going to set everything a blunder because everything's going to blow up or whatever. So now he has to go back and redeem himself, but he's not ready. So he has to go on this big journey with this person he doesn't get along with, but is probably going to get along with by the end. Some connection to his parents, some connection to some device or devices that he has to find. You've heard this a million times. That's not the strength of the movie. Honestly, if you showed me this script, I'd be like, well, there's some cool things in here, but come on, you gotta scale some of this back. And the problem I do have, it is long. It is such a long movie. I mean, it felt like it was 3 hours. When we look at the running time, it was like kind of close. Or I don't know, I got to factor in previews and everything, but it felt long. And every time they were going to go do something else, it's like, oh, Christ, do we have to? But then when we got there, it was always fun. It was always entertaining. And I think a lot of that is the main actor is a very enjoyable Aquaman, very different. I haven't read Aquaman growing up, but I know what he looks like. I have a general idea about his powers. Doesn't seem that interesting to me, but they made him a lot of fun in this. I mean, getting the guy who played Drago, that's really cool. That's a cool actor. And just the wide scale of this. I mean, Atlantis in this looks amazing. I mean, all the shots in this, some of the circling shots get there's a person here and the camera like circles around. That gets a little old after a while, but they still look really nice. And there's probably a little bit of like the exposition stuff where somebody will be like, well, now we have to do this. Why? Well, let me go into the grand story, blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot of that. Well, now we have to get this thing. What's that thing? Well, let me go into the grand story. So there's a lot of that. And it does feel like exposition, but it's such beautiful looking exposition. And the actors are so dedicated to it. And they're just so in this world, and they're saying it like they're in a Lord of the Rings movie. I mean, now with that comes kind of the goofy comedy, and not every scene works. And again, it feels long, but by the end, you kind of felt like you saw this big, big movie. It didn't feel like it was about much, in that, again, you've seen this kind of story millions of times, but it just the scale of it, and the way it was shot, and the way they acted, and everyone treated it so seriously, but not to a fault, not to a point where you're like, okay, lighten up, because there are funnier moments, and the main character is kind of he cracks one-liners and stuff, and the person he's traveling with, she kind of does the same thing. She doesn't have faith with him, so she makes fun of him and stuff. And yeah, even the opening, the way his parents meet, I mean, it's this lighthouse attendant, this guy looks after a lighthouse, and like the Queen of Atlantis, and they form this relationship, and they're learning about their two worlds, and it's funny, and it's cute, and it's charismatic, and you really like them. So yeah, the action is a lot of fun in it. It's a very distinct style, which I found interesting. Like, I think it works here. I think should kind of stop here, because the way it's kind of done, there are a lot of shots that kind of go on and on, like seeing if they can do it in one shot, which clearly they use computers to break it up and stuff, but there's also, again, kind of that circling, really wide-angle lens way of doing things, where they'll kind of get really close to a person, then back up, and then circle around and go over here. As a person flies, they'll follow him, and then circle back the other way. They try to do these really super wide-angle, one-take shots, which, again, I mean, I feel like the computer broke it up in certain scenes, but they're mostly done good, but I don't want to see it to be, like, a continuing thing, or if they're gonna do it, they have to add more to it, because here it's like, great, now I feel like if I saw that the exact same thing in another movie, I'd be sick of it. But the actual stunts are great. The underwater scenes, while they don't look real, they look great. I was kind of wondering, well, how are you gonna do this underwater world? I mean, first of all, it's gotta be super expensive, because a lot of stuff, not surprisingly, is underwater in this. Somehow they work in the desert. I don't know how they did that, but that's not even like, half the movie. I mean, a lot of it is underwater. And again, it doesn't look like, wow, that's really there, but it just looks so gorgeous and so beautiful, and everybody moves so elegantly that you just kind of go, this is just beautiful. I'm digging it. I just think it looks fantastic. So yeah, even kind of like the swimming around, there's times it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think you kind of know that going into a comic book movie, like it's not going to be like they start off this one fight, kind of not even in the middle of the movie. I think it's like near the end of the first act maybe, but the main villain, who's a good main villain in this too, and a very dignified and very strong, very interesting. He's fighting Aquaman here, and they're fighting like on the ground, like walking around, then they shoot into the air and they start fighting, not the air, the water, I guess, and they start swimming around. And I was just like, well, why did it start with them on the ground? How does it even work? But that's comic books. So it's kind of that weird movement where sometimes they'll walk around just like they're people, but then they'll, like project kind of like a super fart through the water. I can't be the first one to say that. But it's this cool thing where it's almost like a rocket pack. They kind of go like this and boom, like something almost shoots from their feet and they go across the water. And it's cool. It just looks like they're farting. Sorry, tell me someone else has made that joke. All right, anyway, am I the only immature ass? I don't care. So, all right, so you got this beautiful world. This beautiful, it kind of looks like the Avatar, better looking than Avatar in my opinion. And you have this, again, this very typical plot, but with just likable actors who are really dedicated. Some decent enough character writing. I feel like this This could have felt like too much exposition. This could have felt like too much going from place to place and everything. But and it does a little bit, but every time it starts to, they add something cool. They add something neat. Like there's just enough of a spin on it or just enough new stuff on it to make it like really fun. And with that said, I feel like there are going to be people that watch this and they're just going to be like, this was way too much for, kind of a run-of-the-mill story. Even though it's a run-of-the-mill epic story, it's like you've heard these in a lot of epics. It's like what Aragon tried to do, the movie. I've never read the book, but like what the movie tried to do. It's like, God, we've seen this so many times and there's nothing new. Where with this, there is a lot of new stuff and impressive stuff and visually stunning stuff in it. So I think there are going to be people that are going to be like, there's just too much going on in this, and in terms of character and story, they're not adding too many new elements, and fair enough, I can see that, especially when the film goes as long as it does. And that is a problem, but for me, like, they always just added some sort of new twist or some sort of cool visual or some sort of interesting thing about the world or a funny one-liner or the characters are just likable enough. But if you were to give me the script, like, no production designs or anything, just the script, I'd be like, okay, this one guy is hunting him because, Aquaman let his father die, you could cut him out. They have to go to like 5 places to find this device that's gonna like bring them all the power. You could cut out like 3 of those places. I'd be looking at the script and say, chop that, chop that, chop that. And yeah, you could, but I don't know. The screenwriters or the director or whatever must have just looked at this and saw possibilities. Like, no, I want this to feel epic, and in epics, they gotta go to various places, Lord of the Rings, Zelda, a lot of these quest stories. So, I feel like it worked just enough, and the characters and the acting were strong enough, and the visuals were so amazing, and the action was entertaining that I really had a good time, and I was squirming in my seat every once in a while, but then something cool would happen, and I just fell in love with it. So, yeah, in terms of the DC movies, I guess, I think I still like Wonder Woman more. Wonder Woman had a little bit more character, and she was a bit more interesting, but Aquaman really had that epic size. It really had this huge scale where when a battle was happening, like, it felt like a big battle. It was shot like an epic battle. Like, there's some real Return of the King scenes in here that if you're going to see it on IMAX. I mean, you will... Like, put it this way, if you see it and you don't see it on IMAX, you're going to be kicking yourself. You're going to be like, damn it, why didn't I pay the extra couple dollars or whatever? Because, yeah, it is really amazing to look at. It really is one of those spectacle movies, in my opinion, where it's, like I said, it doesn't look realistic, but it looks amazing. It's just this phenomenal looking film. And you're behind it. You don't want to see the bad guy take over, but you also understand where the bad guy's coming from. You want to see Aquaman win. You're following him on the journey, and you like the guy, and he's funny, and the arc he has to go through is, typical, but it's still a good arc. You feel like, yeah, this guy would be thinking this at this point, and maybe you would too, like, he's really charming enough. I almost feel like this is the second real Thor movie we got, because the first one, in my opinion, is Ragnarok. But Ragnarok really had a light story, and that was part of the fun. This one has, like, even though it's kind of standard, it is a heavier story. And I feel like the directing and the acting and the visuals just really cemented as something really large and really a lot of fun. So, yeah, this is, granted, you should probably know I'm not a huge fan of the DC movies that have come out, but yeah, I feel like out of all of them, this is probably the second best one. I mean, just a solid, fun movie. I feel like there's going to be people that are going to think it's too much, and fair enough, that's completely understandable, but I really thought, I dug this movie a lot. I just had a blast. I could maybe see it again. Like I said, the length is tough, but it's... I will definitely buy it on Blu-ray. I'm going to watch a lot of these scenes over. In terms of seeing it on the big screen, like, I might. which I don't say for a lot of movies. Like, I did see Spider-Verse again. That's another one. If you told me out of all the Spider-Man movies, the one where, like, this anime girl is Spider-Man and Nicolas Cage as a film noir Spider-Man and all these parallel universes that's only designed to get other cinematic universes going from Sony would be the best Spider-Man. That came out this year too. I'd be like, what the hell? So this year, at least in terms of like some of these comic book movies, has really been a surprise. And I'm really happy about it because even though the Marvel films are still going strong and it's still really entertaining, I feel like these other movies that have had such a history of trying to catch up to what Marvel is doing are now doing things so different and so unique and so entertaining, they're kind of surpassing Marvel. And don't get me wrong, it's only one or two things. You know, Sony had Into the Spider-Verse, DC had, you know, Wonder Woman, but it's debatable whether or not it's better than some of the Marvel movies. It might be. I don't know. I'd have to look through them all. But with Aquaman, I mean, I feel like this is really a change of pace for DC, and just what a random movie to do it with. Maybe that's why. Maybe because, you know, people know Aquaman, but like if you're asked someone, what's Aquaman's backstory, and name 5 of the characters from his comic, like, the common person probably couldn't do it, so maybe there's a little bit more freedom with it. And kind of the same thing with, you know, Wonder Woman. A lot of people know Wonder Woman, and they can name maybe 2 or 3 other characters from the comic, you know, but not much more. Same thing with Spider-Man, the Miles character, you know, like, a fair amount of people know the Miles character, but not too many know the others. So maybe because there's not that weight of familiarity, they feel like they can kind of have more fun with it, or they don't have to be too bound by it. They can really expand and try new stuff. And I feel like even though it is, like I said, a standard story, they're trying this epic size thing, and I can't believe the amount of money they threw at this too. For Aquaman. Maybe they just knew his popularity was growing and they just, you know, Wonder Woman did really well, so they're like, okay, we gotta try like the epic size stuff, the big grand lands, you know, the giant worlds, the royalty, the king, the queen that have to go and, you know, have the child that's gonna save the day, and, you know, that kind of traditional epic story. So yeah, you know, and that's another thing too. It didn't feel like it was trying to connect to the other DC films. I'm trying to even think of like any point, maybe 1 or 2 times they mention Justice League, but they never say Batman, they never say Superman, like they don't mention any of that. And yeah, it was really strong for it. And like I said, Spider-Verse mentioned all sorts of different Spider-Mans and cinematic universes, and that's fine too. They did it very cleverly. So I don't know. It's weird. It's the first time in a while, even though I want to see Endgame, I'm still excited to see the other Marvel properties coming out. It's the first time in a while where it's like, wow, like, even though DC has only had, you know, kind of 1, I guess 2 with Wonder Woman, 2 really big, you know, different kind of films, and then Sony's had 1 with Spider-Verse, like, I'm more excited what those 2 are going to do in the future now, as opposed to Marvel. Which, don't get me wrong, Marvel's cool. I'm going to watch them. I'm still excited. But I feel like where they're still evolving. Marvel's evolving these 2 properties just through the randomness and really experimenting and trying new stuff are kind of taking bigger leaps. Because they're taking bigger risks, I feel like, in terms of what they're going to show. Like I said, who would throw this much money into Aquaman to make it this grand, and on a director who's known for horror, you know? I mean, he is a big hit with a lot of the horror films, but I mean, like, I wouldn't think this guy would be like the pinnacle Aquaman director, and he did a really great job, and I kind of want to see him do more epic movies, honestly. I want to see what he does with more action films. This is probably my favorite James Wan film. I like his horror films, like I always, because there's going to be something new and something creepy, but I never had like one that was great from beginning to end, in my opinion. But I do like his movies like just enough. This is the first one where I'm like, that was awesome. I want to see more of this. So yeah, that's about it. I really enjoyed this. It's like I said, it's so weird to have a year where it's like I haven't seen really any bad Marvel movies or anything, but I'm excited to see what DC is gonna do and what Sony's gonna do. I can't believe I'm saying that. You know, I'm legitimately like, ooh, I can't wait. So yeah, I say check it out. If you are going to see it on IMAX. God, please see it on IMAX. I didn't see it in 3D. I think they have it in 3D. The shots are pretty fast in a lot of the action scenes, so I don't know how that would work, but try it out. Maybe it'll be good, but definitely if you're going to see it on IMAX. Like, it is worth the money to see it there. So, guys, that's about it. I had a blast. I can't wait to see what's coming up next. I can't believe I'm excited for Aquaman 2. This is so weird. So, yeah, that's about it. I'll see you later. Take care.